Are you done?
Anyways, hello all, my name is Sphinx and I'm always behind on trends. Some of you may have noticed last summer there was a trend going around called Slasher Summer. Pretty much it just entailed just enjoying slasher movies over the summer and kind of enjoying slashers in themselves. So I wanted to have some fun with this trend. Yes, I'm aware I'm a year behind. Did you not listen to the fucking intro? There's a little series I like to do on my channel where I turn pretty much anyone or anything, or even just vague concepts, into idols, specifically Japanese idols, because I'm a costume designer and I really like designing costumes for idols. That's what I wanted to do for this one. I wanted to turn some slasher characters into idols. That's the video. I know the title doesn't say that. I'll get to that part. Hold on. So let me explain my little thought process with this. Again, I thought about it over last summer, but I didn't have enough time to actually put the video together. And I also didn't really know what I wanted my slasher idols to look like. I could have gone with the simple suit to look. That's always a safe bet, especially when talking about male slashers, which are specifically the ones I'm talking about in this video, are male slashers. So I could have done the suit. That would have been a simple one. I could have put them in streetwear or contemporary, but I felt like that would have just made them look like normal slasher AUs, like hipster AU and whatever, and hip-hop AU. That wasn't really what I wanted to go for. I could have turned them into female idols. That actually would have been a whole lot easier. Why didn't I fucking do that? I could have just turned them into female idols. That would have been so much more options for me. But I decided against that. While listening and looking at Japanese culture and Japanese music, I found one subgenre that I really got drawn to. Visual Kei. And that's when it hit me. I'm gonna turn some slasher characters into Visual Kei band members. Yes, this is still gonna be in the idol playlist. I'm aware Visual Kei is not idols, they're bands. I'm aware of this. Shut up! For those who don't know, let me go ahead and explain what Visual Kei is. Visual Kei is a music genre that has its own subculture to go along with it that includes its own fashions and styles. Yes, it is one of those subcultures where you do have to at least know and listen to the music in order to be a part of the subculture. Sorry, not sorry. Visual Kei originated in the 1980s, and it takes a lot of inspiration from glam rock, rock and roll, metal, punk, gothic rock. The big hair, the makeup, the layers, the leather, the chains, the metal, the piercings, and counter to what your conservative uncle may say, androgyny. A lot of bands at this time played with androgyny, including Visual Kei. Specific Japanese inspiration came from kabuki theater and shoujo. Here is a brief summary on both of those. Kabuki theater is a traditional Japanese form of theater. During its popularity, the performers were all male and so played both male and female roles. I mean, what theater in history didn't do that at some point? The plays were typically about historical events or moral conflicts. One of the main appeals of kabuki theater was like just the spectacle of it all. There were a lot of trapdoors, there were a lot of fun props, costuming, staging. Just generally coming to these shows, you went not only for the story and the performances, but also just to see the spectacle of the entire show and how they kind of made these things seem magical. And that's not even getting into the character types that people went to these shows to specifically see. Shoujo, for those who aren't fucking weebs, is a genre, kind of. All it is like mangas and animes and stories that are specifically catered to young teenagers and young women. Again, it's not really a genre, though media that is categorized into shoujo typically have certain tropes and storylines that go along with it, but generally it is not a genre. Get out of my comments, weeb police. I don't give a shit. That's not what this video is about, alright? If you want that, go to the Anime Man or something, alright? That's not what this video is about.
Hey, Sphinx.
Yeah?
Don't you think it's a little odd that a band full of a bunch of grown men are specifically catering themselves in a way that is similar to a genre that is specifically targeting young teenage girls and young women?
Yes.
Okay.
Back to Visual Kei. X Japan is considered one of the pioneers of Visual Kei. The slogan, psychedelic violence crime of visual shock, is considered kind of like the ground of which Visual Kei was built off of. The entire genre and style of Visual Kei is supposed to be very shocking and scary, edgy, controversial. It's supposed to make the everyday person feel uncomfortable. It's generally just supposed to be very, like, shock value type of media. The original term used for Visual Kei in an article by Shuichi Hoshoko in Shock magazine was Bijuro Kei, which is translated to Visual Kei. I'm learning Japanese. My Japanese is not that great. I don't want to hear anybody in the comments. Unless you're generally trying to help me with pronunciation, then you're cool. Not only was their music and style very shocking, but also just their performances in general. They very much were heavy in the spectacle field. They really enjoyed having these dramatic shows with lights and trapdoors. They had a bunch of props. They had a bunch of headbanging. They oftentimes had certain gestures associated with their image and music, expressive dancing, instrumental smashing, and even being intimate on stage with each other. Some bands and band members created these kind of personas and storylines for themselves, very much following this idea of a dark prince, a vampire lord, this very beautiful gothic storytelling now you see where the shoujo comes in. Visual Kei is still around today, obviously, but it's kind of branched out in different niches and certain types that includes having their own subgroups to go along with it. So, listen to Visual Kei, it's fucking cool as hell. Visual Kei does have a certain style, and now of course it can vary depending on everything, but the general vibe is distressing, dark color scheme, asymmetry, messy but clean, layers, leather, playing with different materials, large hair, accessorizing, and makeup of course. Now again, these styles can vary, and from a lot of articles they kind of just described as like, you'll know Visual Kei when you see it. So that's kind of the rules, I guess? Those who are fans of Visual Kei are just as bold and loud as the actual bands themselves, oftentimes mimicking the dance moves and gestures the band does, and of course doing the headbanging and mosh pitting and all the stuff that you'd expect from like a rock concert. Now, let's get into our slashers. General notes, the designs that I'm making are specifically referencing Visual Kei from the 80s. Because most of the movies that I'm referencing came out around the 80s, I'll be going in release order of the slashers that I picked, which means that our first movie coming out in 1974, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre and our boy, Leatherface. For those who haven't seen the movie, listen, alright, I can't watch a lot of slasher movies. I get sick after a certain amount of violence, alright? There's so much gore I can take before I start throwing up, and I want to be able to enjoy my movies and not want to go to the bathroom every couple minutes every time I see too much gore, alright? Get out of my comment! But I do watch a good handful of video essays and people talking about those movies, so I feel like I have enough information to enjoy these movies and talk about them. Texas Chainsaw Massacre follows a young group of adults who have found their way in the middle of fuck all Texas, and have also run into a cannibalistic family. They are all killed off, and one of the most iconic of the antagonists is Leatherface, called that because he takes the skin of his victims and puts it on his face, thus hinting Leatherface. For his design, and something that you'll notice with all the other designs, I decided to keep his color scheme and his general silhouette. I felt that if I went too far away from that, then you wouldn't know that that's who this is referencing. And I still want people to recognize it as Leatherface and as these slasher characters, just with a Visual Kei twist to them. I'm working on his more casual look. He technically has two looks in the movie. He has like the look that you see him with in the beginning, where it's his yellow apron look is what I'm going to call it, and then he has a suit look at the very end, but I'm going to work specifically on the yellow apron look. And I'll be honest with y'all, he took me a hot second to get around, alright? His look is a little different. I took off his button down, so then it showed a little bit more skin and gave a little bit more risque vibe, which is definitely more leaning into that shock and Visual Kei look that I'm wanting. I also made the apron kind of look like a leather bondage halter top in a way. Again, risque and shocking. He also still has his necktie, just something a little bit more interesting, something he can play with. Something, you know, you could imagine him tugging on, or you tugging on. On his arms, I gave him these leather arm wrap things, armbands, arm warmers. It was a trend I noticed in some Visual Kei, and it also adds a little bit more visual interest to his upper half, which is definitely what I want more of. Because his lower half is just black leather pants and black platform boots. On one of his arm sleeves as well is his iconic weapon of choice, which is the chainsaw, obviously. For his face, I obviously did not want him to have the leather face on because you wouldn't see his face, and I wanted to showcase some makeup and hair. So instead, another trend I noticed in Visual Kei was band members wearing like headbands. So instead, I kind of transformed a Leatherface inspired headband. His makeup is very simple. I decided to go for the white foundation look. Though not all Visual Kei bands, especially in the 80s, did white foundation, I personally just enjoy white foundation, and I think it also adds a very ghoulish element to these characters, which again, they are inhuman in their own right. or they just are inhuman in general. So having this ghoulish look really pushes that idea. He has black lipstick and then some black eyeliner and black thin eyebrows. His contour is like a blood red, again representing that kind of like fleshy, bloody cannibalism. His eye makeup also matches that contour. His hair is just general teased up to the gods. And that's Leatherface. His design is done. That's what he looked like. He took me quite a while. He actually has 2 iterations. And this is the finished one. This is the one I liked better. This is the one we're going with. The next character I also struggled with because his design is way too fucking simple. Is from the movie Halloween that came out in 1978. Michael Myers. Halloween is the story of Michael Myers, who is a murderer, obviously, breaks out the penitentiary, and then goes on a murdering spree on Halloween. There's also a B-plot of like the doctor that took care of him, trying to capture him, and there's also Laura Strode, who is the final girl of this movie. It's a simple movie, but there's also a lot to it if you really want to look into it. Generally, Michael Myers, murderer, starts murdering people on Halloween. It's also one of the few movie franchises I can watch, because Halloween is not very violent. I mean, it's violent, it's just not gory. So, as mentioned before with this design, I actually really struggled with it because it is just so simple. It's really just a blue jumpsuit and work boots and his iconic white mask. Which means I could have just put him in a leather jumpsuit, but then he would have matched another character I was already doing anyways. So I decided to look at some other inspiration, and I found some from my favorite little figurines, the anime girl figurines. I noticed that in that figurine they kind of had the jumpsuit pulled down a little bit, exposing an undershirt, which I was like, I can work with that. I can work with that. So what I did was I pulled down his jumpsuit and tied it around his waist, and that way it could expose a crop top, which was a style that I also noticed was popular within Visual Kei and just generally the 80s. The crop top is the movie poster of Halloween, again tying back to that this is Michael Myers. His blue jumpsuit is tied around his waist, he's wearing black platform boots, he's wearing black fingerless gloves. No, he does not have those in the original design, but I like black fingerless gloves, so that's what he's wearing. Again, it also adds more visual interest to his upper half. Speaking of that, he also has a choker and then some chain necklaces, one of them displaying his weapon of choice, which is for makeup. Having him in white foundation made total sense. So I literally just did light contour with gray, his eye makeup is just black, and then his hair is just teased. Michael is done. Congratulations, moving on. Next on our list is a movie from 1980, Friday the 13th, and that means that our boy is Jason Voorhees. Friday the 13th is a movie about a haunted summer camp where bad things happen. They reopen the summer camp and people start dying. They start getting horrifically murdered. Maybe they shouldn't have opened that camp back up. Oh well. I had kind of the most fun with Jason Voorhees, mostly because he had the most layers and most things I can play with. We're going to start from top layer inward. So for the top layer, which is his coat, I turned that into this Visual Kei inspired leather jacket that I found online. Under that, he has a torn t-shirt, which I then turned into a leather vest with only one side having a collar, so that way it mimics the tear in his shirt. And then the other undershirt that he has under that, I just turned into black fishnets. A detail in his coat and in his belt is I decided to make them blood red, because his movie is actually also very gory. Another movie I cannot watch. Moving down to his lower half, he has the black leather pants and the black platform boots. On one of his legs, there is going to be a leather machete that is stitched onto his pants. He also does have gloves. I just turned them into black leather gloves. For makeup, again, the white foundation. He has red lipstick, again, representing that bloodiness. He has red contour, red eye makeup, and he also has red markings under his eyes that mimic his ski mask. Speaking of his ski mask, I decided to turn that to the side of his head, also mimicking the anime girl figurine. And though Jason is bald, he's not really bald. He has like some gray wispies. I took that and turned his hair into long, teased gray hair. Jason is finished. Moving on to a lesser known slasher from Canada is the movie My Bloody Valentine that came out in 1981, and the character is the Miner. My Bloody Valentine is about a miner who is a ghost of some kind who goes around murdering people during the season of love. There's a whole lot more to this movie, obviously. Like, if you've seen it, you know, or if you watched a video essay, you know. But that's the general plot, is evil ghost miner going around killing people. The miner, as an antagonist, also has a blue jumpsuit and black work boots. You see why I had to make decisions? I will say I had a little bit more artistic liberties with the miner, and we'll get into that in just a moment. For the first part of his design, I did keep his blue jumpsuit, but instead I decided to wrap it in some brown leather straps. I think he had those in the original design, that or I just decided that would add a little bit more visual interest, and so I included them. And to his design, it also made it look a little bit more industrial, a little bit more like work heavy. Fun thing about him is his blue jumpsuit is tucked into his boots, which means I can show off his strappy leather platform boots. He also does have gloves in the original design, so I gave him black leather gloves. The most artistic liberties I took was with his gas mask. No matter where I put it on his face, I felt like it would have obstructed his face, which again is not my goal. I want people to see his face. So instead I broke the mask into 2 separate pieces. I have the goggles, which is holding up like his hairline area. And then I have the actual gas mask, which is a more modern look of the gas mask. And then there's a tube that connects to like his breathing pack, which is part of the original design. Again, this is a little bit more artistic liberties. It's not part of the original design, but I needed to show off his face, and it again adds a little bit more like edginess and chalkiness to it. His makeup, white foundation, dark contour. His hair is teased and kind of looks like a heart. And his weapon of choice is going to also be a leather patch stitched onto the back of his jumpsuit. I don't know why I decided to all have their iconic weapons on them at some point. I just felt like it tied them all together, kind of like how some idols have like cute animals that associate with them. These weapons are associated with them. And finally, a character that I wasn't quite sure I wanted to join in the party, but also kind of does fit the vibe anyways, from the movie that came out in 1984, is the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, and our final bandmate, Freddy Krueger. Nightmare on Elm Street is about Freddy, who is a ghost, spectral thing, going around and haunting the dreams of the grown-up teenage children that he... did not do great things to not good things, these not good things. But he haunts their dreams, and when you die in the dream, you die in real life. His design kind of just looks like Freddy, but everything's leather. I turned his sweater into a leather jacket that I saw. Again, here's the inspiration for that. And then very much just put his color scheme onto this jacket. I gave him a brown leather belt, and the belt buckle is his face. His original little gory, scary, burnt face. Because if you didn't know, he was burned alive. Because the parents did it. Good on the parents. We should do that more often. That's what we should be doing more. We should really be burning alive His pants, like the others, are just black leather pants. He has black platform boots. He is wearing his iconic hat. And he is actually wearing his iconic weapon, which is the claw hand that he has. For makeup, he is wearing red lipstick, he has red contour on his face, of course the right foundation, if I didn't mention that before. His contour is a little bit sharper, again trying to give off this like scarred face look. And his hair is red. Freddy's technically bald, but I gave him red hair because adding again to that like burnt red look that he has naturally. And that's Freddy. And that is all the slashers. It was actually kind of a lot of fun playing with this and learning more about this genre of music that I was kind of already interested in, and learning more about it and listening to some more of its music and looking specifically at its style I really enjoyed. And that is our Slasher Visual Kei inspired band. These are our boys. What do y'all think? Be nice in the comments, please. I'm sensitive. Thank you all so much for watching as always. If you do want to see a full like kind of speed paint situation and me kind of talk about my entire process, I do have a Patreon. It's only $3 a month, and you get to join the Discord. And yeah, make sure to do all the dumb YouTube stuff, and hopefully I'll have this video edited in a short amount of time. Bye!